Hello everybody, this is Monty with Flowers by the Bunch. Today we are going to work on a silk arrangement that a customer actually brought in her container. She brought in a few silks and we're going to add a few of ours to her arrangement. So this is it's almost concrete. It's a heavy container that's really pretty. It's kind of distressed. It's really pretty. I am going to take a piece of foam. So this is a dry styrofoam, and I am going to dip it right down into some glue. And I have my glue pan over here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm dipping that foam right down into the glue, and then I'm pressing it right down in to my container. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of Spanish moss and I am going to wrap it all the way around my foam to cover up that foam. I always like to kind of camouflage my foam because it's so bright green and I don't want it to show. So I just added a little moss on top of that styrofoam. Next, we're going to start with our flowers. Now, often if you've watched me design, you will watch me add my greenery first and then my flowers. But this time I don't have tons of greenery. So we are going to start with the flowers that she brought us. I am going to remove the tags. They have all of these craft store tags on them, so you want to make sure that those are pulled off. And I'm going to take my stem and I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to use my wire snips and cut that in half. So these almost look, almost like a daisy, just a little white daisy type stem. I'm going to dip that stem right down into the glue and I'm going to press that stem right down into our floral foam. Now this arrangement is going to be all the way around, so I'm going to take all of her flowers first because I want to fill in with her flowers first and then use mine. Because I want to make this as reasonable as possible for her. Now here at our flower shop, we will put together and we will freshen up other people's arrangements. We do not mind if you bring your containers and you bring your flowers. We are so happy to put those arrangements together. If you have a wreath that needs a little bit of freshening up, you can take that wreath and we will pull all the old flowers off of it and we will freshen that up for you. We don't mind doing those things at all. We just charge a small fee for designing it for you. So I'm taking those flowers and just tucking them in. Now I am going to make this arrangement all the way around. Again, I'm just cutting my stems in half. I always like it when you get a stem large enough that you can cut in half, and that way you can use those flowers kind of all the way through. So I'm just dipping those stems right into that glue, tucking them right down into our foam. Kind of fluff those stems up a little bit. Sometimes faux flowers tend to come in boxes, right? So they come a little flat. You always want to make sure you breathe a little life into those flowers. Fluff them up if they need fluffed. You can always kind of twist and turn and put them in the place they need to go. Now, if you have flowers like hydrangeas or roses that come in and they're kind of smashed in a box, let me tell you, the best thing that I have ever found is a clothes steamer. If you'll take your clothes steamer and you will steam those flowers, it will completely revive any of those squished flowers. It makes such a huge difference. with faux flowers. So I'm dipping each stem right in, and I am just taking these little, it almost looks a little like cosmos. Blooming cosmos is what these little flowers look a lot alike. They're just pretty little white flowers. I said daisies at first, and I knew it was something a little different than a daisy. It looks a lot like a daisy, but not just like one. All right, so there are all her little stems. She also brought me this fern, so we're going to use that next before we add our flowers. I'm going to set my flowers over here to the side. Okay, and these are her fern that she brought in. So I'm just going to take it, dip it in that glue, and press it right into that foam. Now we need this fern to cover up as much of this foam as possible. So I'm going to take it and press it pretty deep down into my arrangement. And it's kind of like we would use leather leaf or palm. We would tuck it in to try to cover up those mechanics. The wonderful thing too about using this palm or these fern fronds is that they're very easy to manipulate and bend and make work. So you don't want to leave them just real flat. You want to kind of give them a little bit of a bend so that they look a little more fresh. Just taking each of these stems. So this is a full stem. One of them, they'd all already been cut off. With this one, I'm just going to take and cut off each of those fronds. Okay. Again, I'm just bending and dipping. Tucking that right in. And you just want to make sure that you go all the way around and you're trying to cover up that foam, which is certainly not covered. Like it though when someone brings me in things to work with, because it makes me have to kind of step outside of my comfort zone. A lot of times people will bring things that I probably would not have chosen, and so when they do that, I have to be creative and I have to figure out, okay, so how am I going to make these flowers work in this container, which is not always the easiest job, but it's kind of fun. It kind of makes you have to be creative and kind of have fun doing it. All right, so there's all of her fronds. I am going to take a little more of that moss in small pieces, and I'm just going to work it down into the center of this arrangement. Just kind of press it right down around that foam. Okay, next I'm going to take a few of these artificial hydrangeas that I have, because these are larger blooms and they are going to cover some of that base. So I'm going to take this bloom, I'm going to trim up that stem, dip it in that glue, and I am going to kind of nestle it right down deep into the center of that arrangement. And that's going to help us cover up some of those mechanics. I'm going to trim up those stems, dip it in my glue, and nestle it deep down into that arrangement. Okay? And then next I'm going to come in with a few garden roses. Oops. I think I have 3 little garden roses. And all of these blooms are going to go just kind of deep. Again, I'm just trying to cover up any of the mechanics I have low. All right, I think that's looking really pretty. I have one more of those little garden roses I'm going to tuck back here in the back. And I think I'm going to add a few berries and we are going to call it pretty. All right, so there's those garden roses in the front and then a few in the back. And then there's a few empty spots. So I have these pretty green berries. So this arrangement is going to be used for, it's non-seasonal. So it'll be used throughout the seasons. And I loved these pretty little green berries that I had in our stash in the back. So I am going to take and I'm going to dip that stem right down into that glue. And all the phones ring at the same time. I dip that stem right down into the glue. And I am just going to press it over here on the side. I love this bright green because it kind of gives us a hint of color in this arrangement. Now, of course, everything's white, kind of very neutral. But I like the idea of that little pop of green to just give us a little bit of color, a little bit of freshness. I'm going to trim up that stem because these are very tender little stems. So I'm going to tuck that in. And anytime you're working with glue, you want to make sure that you get all these little strings. You want to remove those because they're just everywhere. All right, and there is our finished all white and a pop of green arrangement. Again, I came in with her flowers first. I wanted to see if I could make the arrangement with mostly her flowers and only a few of ours. And honestly, I think I wound up using four hydrangeas, maybe 3 hydrangeas, 4 stems of the garden type roses, and then 4 stems of my berries. And that was it. So I think it really turned out so lovely, and I think it'll be a perfect non-seasonal arrangement for her room. Guys, thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up for me. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button right down below. Guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. If you have any questions about how we do things here at Flowers by the Bunch, you can always ask. We'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.